Yeah, I'm not buying this whole Democrat finally realizing that it's time to reopen the Government Act. I'm not buying this at all. It's not even a week after the election. I mean, couldn't they have waited, I don't know, at least a week and a half just to pretend like we're not stupid and we didn't see what they were doing the entire time? Welcome to the show. Glad you're here today. Mondays, we kick off a new week. 855-839-1210 on X at Rich Zeoli. It's so pathetic. It really is. Just what an act. What a scam. And you know, the thing about it too is that we all knew this. We talked about this during the election. How many times did we say this was a cynical and sick attempt by Democrats to try to win in New Jersey and Virginia and New York and everywhere else too, and get their votes passed in California, get judges to stay on the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, everywhere. By the way, Harmeet Dillon, who is a great election lawyer, she is bringing up the Chester County debacle where 75,000 people were not able to vote because of the actual direct incompetence, probably on purpose. So we'll talk more about that as the show goes on today. But let's understand the impact of the shutdown and what it did to Virginia and New Jersey. Because now that it's going to come to an end, as these Democrats have now finally found the light, not even a week after Election Day, Sunday night when they announced this deal. And of course, you've got Democrats, they're all pretending like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. We can't give in. And they have to say that, obviously. Even people like, I hate to say the words, Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill. Ooh, painful. Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill is against this. She has to be, because it was part of the reason why she got elected. We didn't see it down here in South Jersey, but up in North Jersey, the issue of the shutdown and the canceling of the Gateway Tunnel project, which would be a massive increase in the tunnel in New York, with the trains going over there and the hundreds of thousands of people that ride those lines. It was a big issue. And it was one of the things where, as a buddy of mine up in Morris County, New Jersey, a county that is now a light blue county, said it was hard because Jack couldn't really fight it, and he really didn't fight it. And I mean, obviously, look, when it's close to 14 points of a loss, there's lots of different factors. It's not just one thing. It's many things that happened here. Republicans staying home. It's the Gateway Tunnel project. It's young women voters, Indian voters, Hispanic voters. It's a lot of things. Affordability. It's a lot of things. But it doesn't help. And in Virginia, when you've got all these government workers who typically vote Democrat anyway, but you knew that they were going to come out and vote because they were angry, the government shutdown helps to motivate them, and it did. And so then the election ends, it goes the Democrats' way, and suddenly now Democrats are bravely crossing the aisle to vote to keep the government open till January. And then will we go through this stunt all over again? I don't know. Probably not, because we'll be getting closer to midterms, and they don't want to look like the party that shut down the government. But I got to tell you, I got to hand it to Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. This guy is smart. And he went on with the unbiased journalist George Stephanopoulos, and he actually confronted George Stephanopoulos about the fact that when he was the White House communications director under Clinton, he called Republicans who wouldn't open the government terrorists. And of course, the minute he tries to do that, Stephanopoulos shuts him down. He's like, I reject the mischaracterization of the history. But it's literally what he said, and we have the quote for you, and it's also in his dumb book, which the Treasury Secretary, who I thought was smart with money, not as smart as I thought, because he bought it. He bought Stephanopoulos' book. But then again, there is a return window. So, maybe he'll return it in time. And he bought it on Amazon. So I think Amazon has extended their return window for the holiday shopping season. So maybe he'll just return it, and then everything will be fine. Otherwise, I'll lose serious respect for him over his management of money, because that book is just, and you could probably get it at the library. Anyway, but the point is that it was obvious what they were doing, and they were motivating people, and they were hoping people would starve and be angry because they weren't getting their SNAP benefits, and they were highlighting stories about that every day. People worried, scared as the cold is coming that they wouldn't be able to eat, blah blah blah. And you knew that this was going to end after the election was over. You knew it. I knew it. We all knew it. We're all supposed to act like we're surprised by this. We're all supposed to act like, oh my, how brave of them to finally see that their strategy wasn't working and they're going to course correct. It's like, stop. Stop. And yeah, you know, as I've long said to you, there's nothing in this that conservatives should like. If anything, conservatives were the ones who should be upset that the government is going to be reopening and everything's going to stay like it was before, not Democrats. But then again, this was never about actual policy. It was always about the election. Always. And it's funny, too, because now in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is getting confronted with reality that he can't make buses free. He can't do basically anything that he ran on. I mean, he can make the life of the police miserable, and he can make it so that there's more prostitutes. But beyond that, there's really not much he can do without Albany's help. And the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, is already throwing hot water on a lot of his dumb, stupid, socialist commie ideas. I mean, she wasn't during the election. During the election, when she was doing rallies for him and pretending like the crowd was chanting "Go Bills" when they were chanting "Tax the Rich," Kathy Hochul was doing everything she could to help Mamdani win. But now that it comes time to actually govern, and he's realizing that he's not going to get the support that he needs in Albany, it's just kind of funny to watch because we were all saying this. He can't do all these things. But there are low information voters out there who are quite frankly stupid, and they're dumb people. And I know that stupid and dumb can be the same thing, but they're dumb, stupid people. And they believe this stuff. And they go, oh, great, we're going to get free stuff. Great. Sounds wonderful. We're going to raise taxes. Only you can't raise taxes. That takes Albany. You can't make buses free. That takes Albany. They're MTA buses. It's the Metropolitan Transit Authority that comes out of the state of New York, not the city of New York, like the subway. But, oh, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of things he can do to help accelerate the demise of that city. He certainly will be doing those things, no doubt about that. But it'll be fun to watch if Kathy Hochul crosses him. Who loses political capital more quickly? Because people typically hate whoever's mayor of New York, like on day one, maybe day two, but by the second day at least. And they may hate him already. They always hate whoever's mayor. But then again, you are dealing with a guy who is able to motivate these young factions of voters. So maybe that young faction of voters will be motivated to go up to Albany and scream. And maybe they'll listen and they'll panic and think, oh, if we don't listen to these people, then we're going to be out of office. That's certainly a possibility. I don't reject that possibility. I'm just simply saying that it'll be fun to watch this new power dynamic that's playing out in a big way. And Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill is going to find out that she can't just freeze energy prices or freeze electricity prices. She campaigned on that. Of course, that reality, she's moving forward with this, and she's going to sign an executive order on day number 1, declare a state of emergency, freeze electricity prices. I mean, that's also another scam. But we knew that was a scam. We told you it was a scam. You said it was a scam. We all knew it was a scam. But like anything else, as you analyze the results of that election, there are many factors that went into what happened last Tuesday. There were many factors. It's not just one thing. If it was 1 point or 2 points, that would be something. But when you're dealing with such a big spectrum on the loss index, it's a whole lot of different things that all added up to a perfect storm. The government shutdown played into that. Like I said, we were not following the story closely down in South Jersey because there's 2 different media markets, and up in North Jersey, where the local New York stations were covering this, and they would go to people on commuter platforms. And then Mikey Sherrill brings in Pete Buttigieg, and they campaign, and they talk about how awful it's going to be that President Trump canceled the Gateway Tunnel project. And even though we all said that it would be refunded, and actually the project was still moving forward, but they just didn't tell people that. You know, they played into this idea that it was really dead. It wasn't dead. It was dead like the guy in Princess Bride. Not dead. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even mostly dead like he was. It was like you know, it was politically, metaphorically dead, but it wasn't really dead. But that doesn't matter. Again, you're dealing with people that don't follow stuff very closely. They follow headlines. They hear snippets. And then when they're frustrated on their commute and they find out that the relief that they were hoping for is not going to happen because Trump canceled the project, they blame him. They blame the Republican. They blame Chitterelli. It becomes a whole thing. Lots of factors went into it. The government shutdown was just another cynical ploy. They go to voters in cities and they say you're losing your SNAP benefits and you're not going to be able to feed your children. How does that make you feel? They put a microphone in their face and, you know, that becomes another story. Scared parents, and they don't know what to do, and you break down the results across the board. And then there was this other lie that was going around last week, which is that the Supreme Court was going to overturn gay marriage. I heard another radio station going on about this last week. How can they even think about overturning gay marriage? And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? What is this? What is this nonsense I'm hearing on this dopey radio station, on this dopey show? And then I had to like Google it. Like, what is this? The Supreme Court's overturning gay marriage. I'm pretty sure I follow the issues. And of course it was, would the Supreme Court move forward with a request to revisit the Obergefell decision? And today the Supreme Court said no. So they weren't even announcing that they were going to revisit the Supreme Court decision that legalized gay marriage on a national level, which, using the 14th Amendment, is a terrible legal decision. But regardless, they're not revisiting it. And they weren't revisiting it. And they weren't revisiting it last week or the week before or the week before that. But hysteria. So that hysteria was also happening. And I don't think that really played that much of a fact into it. But a little bit here, a little bit there. It all adds up. You know, Jack Ciattarelli is going to take away gay marriage. It's like stupid. It's like dumb stuff. You know what I mean? And just a cascading thing of dumb stuff. And this comes as Gavin Newsom now is getting ready to run for president. He's going to run. He's running. And he's about to start his 50-state tour. And he's going to go across the country right now, and he's going to reverse every position that Gavin Newsom ever had. The newest one now is that the Democrat Party needs to do better about it has to acknowledge how it's lost young men. Well, gee, maybe if you weren't calling them all the time toxic masculinity, and you weren't accusing them of perpetuating a rape culture, and maybe if you weren't blaming them for all the problems that America faces with the rise of white supremacy and nationalism and blah, 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 maybe you would have done better with them. I don't know. But instead, you basically propped up this beta male soy boy culture in America and said that's the way young men should be. And at the same time you were doing that, you were telling them that they could be girls. So maybe that's part of the reason how you lost them. And it is funny to hear him now turn around and say that we've lost them and we've got to try to bring them back. Now, Republicans lost young women in a big way last Tuesday. Young women in a big way, like 75%, maybe 80%, depending on where and depending on what you look at. The numbers were not good. Today, the Trump administration announced that they're going to end the black box warning on hormone replacement therapy for women who are going through menopause. That announcement was made today by Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Marty Makary, and it's been greeted with a lot of just absolute enthusiasm because they said the black box warning is not necessary and it doesn't meet the science and it's long overdue. So that's good that happened. And I think it'll go a long way towards reassuring people that we have the people running the show in Washington actually interested in things like, science, for example, not just politics. Science goes a long way towards that, and not just, the usual political games that are played all the time, or what we're seeing more and more of there coming out of this. But on the issue of affordability, look, like I've said before, you can't fake somebody's grocery store checkout line. Our prices are coming down in a lot of areas. They're not coming down in other areas. They're evening out in some areas, but it's not. Inflation is much better than where it was, but it was so high under the previous administration that getting it back to earth, it takes time, obviously. But the affordability issue, again, playing into the last election, we're finding out some more data points on that. One polling firm apologized for how wrong they called it, just how wrong they got it in this last election. It was, and I give them credit for it. I give them credit for acknowledging how wrong they were, with Jersey at least. But they're the only one I've heard that actually acknowledges Qantas. And they said that they're sickened by how bad they got it. And these are accurate pollsters. But I haven't heard the same from the other polling groups that also said the same thing, that it was going to be a 1-point race or 2-point race, not a 14-point race. I mean, it'd be one thing if the race was close. It'd be one thing if the race ended up with 3 points, But it wasn't, obviously. And they got it so wrong And now they're trying to figure out how they got it so wrong. And I just think polling is just, just look at, I mean, I hate to say it, but another win for the betting markets. I hate to say that because we're finding out now, like 25% of that money is just pure out fugazi. It's just not real. And this stuff could be so manipulated. Even baseball, we got more indictments now of baseball players in cheating scandals. So it's the NBA. Now it's baseball. But where there's a will, there's a way for people to manipulate markets. No doubt about that. Where there's a will, there's a way. And there's about to be a civil war in the Republican Party in New Jersey because the guy who was appointed by Jack, or basically, he had the blessing of Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican candidate, to be the new state party chairman, is resigning at the end of December. And nothing absorbs like a vacuum, right? It's the old saying. So power gets absorbed very, very quickly. People want it. And there will be a battle for that. And different factions are battling over that because they want to be in charge. I don't know why, but they do. And so that's going to play out as everybody starts pointing fingers over the last election and how it was wrong, how these people got it wrong, and how this person's to blame and that group is to blame. And there'll be a lot of that to go around, and a lot of that for some time to go around. And I said this the day after the election. I said, yeah, there's going to be a civil war, an all-out battle for control of the party, because that's just how these things play out. But what I've also said is that the Democrats are going through a civil war. You're just not hearing about that. And that civil war on the national level is really playing out with this Fugazi shutdown. And the fact that we are now a week after Election Day, not even, and we're going forward with reopening the government. They won, so now they can do it. They won in Jersey, they won in Virginia. Now they can reopen the government because they're tired of hearing people complain, and they just had to suck it up and deal with it up until Election Day, get people angry, get people riled up, and make no mistake, that's exactly what that cynical strategy was all about. Get people upset, make them angry, blame Trump, blame Republicans, use it to say whatever you're unhappy about with the shutdown is Trump's fault, and whatever Republican is just like Trump. So vote against them and send a message to him, you're not happy. And it worked. It worked very well. And it worked, and now they don't have to do it anymore. Suddenly now, even though they've gotten nothing that they want, suddenly these Senate Democrats find their come to Jesus moment and decide they're going to reopen the government. And then the rest of them, because they have the votes, they only need 8. So they only need 8 votes, and they have the 8 votes now. So that gives cover for literally every other Democrat to go out there and scream that they are against reopening the government. So when you hear them and you're wondering, like, well, why? I don't understand. If they've reached a deal to reopen the government, why aren't all the Democrats on board? Because they don't have to be, because most of them are running for every member of the House, understand, is running for re-election next year, unless they're not. Because another Democrat today announced they're not running for re-election. And obviously we know the vampiric one, Nancy Pelosi, hanging it up after 4,000 years of sucking blood. So, she's not hanging up that part of her career. She'll still be out there sucking blood. She's eternal. She can't help it. That's not her fault. But she won't be running as a congresswoman anymore. Still preying on, young virgin blood, obviously. But that's more survival than anything else. And she's made her money. You make a cool, $300 million in stock trades, you can probably hang it up. I think even though you are, that's the other thing, when you're sitting down with your financial advisor and they project life expectancy, because people have wondered that. They said, well, I don't understand. Pelosi's made like $350 million. Why didn't she hang it up a long time ago? Because a good financial advisor is going to tell you that if you are immortal, you need that money to last you at least until the world ends with climate change. And so, years ago, that was easy. Well, you need 7 years' money. But now that they've realized that that was all a hoax, I think they always knew it, but now that they're at least saying that out loud, and now that Bill Gates has come out and said it's a hoax, well, now all these financial advisors have to revise their predictions in terms of life expectancy. So now they can't just say to somebody like Nancy Pelosi, and I don't know if climate change kills vampires. I would assume it does because of the sun and how they can't handle sunlight. So, unless something were to change with the sun, I would think, yeah, it probably would affect them. I don't know. But now they got to rework their money. So if you're going to live to be for another 1,000 years, you probably need at least $350 million, at least. But, she'll still be able to make money off the interest on that and get her through at least the next couple centuries. But for the rest of us who are not so lucky or eternal, then we've got to figure out, like, how we can make it to retirement. But for the Democrats who are all up for re-election next year in the House of Representatives, expect every single one of them to do what you've heard Democrats do since they announced this deal, which is to scream and yell and stomp their feet and hold their nose and hold their breath and act like children and understand that that's all show. It's all theater. This was all orchestrated. If they don't need their votes, then they can vote no, and they can go back and send out a fundraising email, how heartbroken they are. And as long as those senators are not up for re-election next year, and they're not, then they can vote to reopen the government, and everybody can act like they're brave and doing the right thing for the hardworking American people and the hardworking government workers and all the people who need their SNAP benefits and all the people who need federal assistance. But we assure you that once the government's reopened, we're gonna get back to work right away on making sure that health care is available to illegal immigrants. You wonder why people get cynical over all this, don't you? You wonder why. Every member of the House is up for re-election next year. Not every senator is up for re-election. And the only votes they needed were in the Senate because that's the votes they needed to end the filibuster. So they wait till Election Day passes. They give it a couple days. They give it the weekend. And then they announce that they're reopening the government. And people that don't pay attention are supposed to say, woo, wow, brave. Oh, man. I tell you, that's an act of political courage if I've ever seen one. Stop. All right, big show for you today. A lot to get to. Breaking news all over the place. And wait until you hear the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, with the receipts for the unbiased journalist, George Stephanopoulos. Good stuff straight ahead. It's Monday. Glad you're here. It's going to get very cold tonight, by the way. Just a little heads up. We got the Arctic frost coming in. So I guess we'll start calling it global cooling. Don't go away.